Welcome to Levant TV Midday Headlines. Syria's army has dispatched reinforcements to Palmyra in a bid to push back jihadists to advance to within touching distance of the ancient city. The Islamic State group has launched attacks on multiple fronts in Iraq's western province of Anbar in its latest attempt to retake the initiative on the ground. US President Barack Obama tried to reassure America's Gulf allies that engaging with Iran would not come at their expense, and that was at the Camp David summit that proved short on concrete outcomes. Rubber bullets and live fire by Israeli soldiers wounded at least 10 Palestinians during clashes in the northwest bank city of Nablus. And random shelling of residential areas in the restive eastern Libyan city of Benghazi has killed 8 people from one family, including 7 children. Now let's have a look at top Middle East headlines in papers there. Starting from Egypt, where the Independent leads reporting that 8 suspected militants were killed in confrontations with security forces in North Sinai's city of Al-Arish. The paper also reports that a campaign of labor activists has called for collecting signatures to reject government draft amendments to the labor law currently in the works, as well as to call for replacing the existing law. From Lebanon, the Daily Sali is reporting that Michel Aoun, the Free Patriotic Movement leader, has blasted Prime Minister Tamam Salam's government for its, quote, democratic ignorance concerning the presidential election. The paper also reports that Germany's Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier arrived in Beirut at the head of a delegation for talks with Lebanese officials. From the UAE, the Khalij Times leads reporting that President Barack Obama opened a summit with Saudi Arabia and other Gulf allies on Thursday, seeking to convince them of Washington's commitment to their security, despite deep concern among Arab leaders about US efforts to broker a nuclear deal with Iran. The paper also reports that Iranian naval vessels fired what appeared to be warning shots over a Singapore flagship in international waters in the Gulf on Thursday, prompting the ship to flee to the United Arab Emirates waters. Now let's have a look at top Middle East headlines from papers here in London. The Telegraph leads Middle East news section reporting that President Barack Obama held a face-saving Camp David summit with America's Gulf allies as his administration struggled to allay fears among Arab nations that an impending nuclear deal with Iran will further destabilize the region. The 6-hour summit at the president's rural retreat outside Washington, D.C. went ahead despite 4 of the region's monarchs electing to stay away. The Guardian leads Middle East news section reporting that Jeb Bush has shared a 4th opinion in as many days on the wisdom of the 2003 invasion. The firm, quote, no on the question of informed invasion came after days in which Bush issued contradictory statements about the war. And in the Independent reports that ISIS has released an audio purportedly featuring its leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi calling for supporters of the extremist group across the world to travel to its territories and fight. The audio called on every Muslim in every place to migrate to lands under ISIS self-declared caliphate in Iraq and Syria and fight or take up arms in the country they live in. And now, international papers. From Berlin, the Deutsche Welle reports that Islamic State militants have begun to advance on Palmyra, a city with a history that dates back to 4,000 years. Fighters from the Islamic State terrorist group advanced to the gates of the ancient city of Palmyra, raising fears that Palmyra may suffer the same fate as several heritage sites the jihadists have already destroyed in Iraq, like the Assyrian city of Nimrud. And finally, the New York Times reports that Amir Hekmati, the Marine veteran who is the longest-held American prisoner in Iran, reluctantly ended his second hunger strike this past weekend after relatives, particularly his terminally ill father, besieged him to stop. Hekmati's sister Sarah also said she believed that some Iranian officials would like to see him released and may be exerting their influence to at least make his imprisonment slightly less harsh. That's it for today's newspapers. For more updates, please visit levant.tv. Thanks for watching and bye for now.